Good evening, everybody. At Clackamas Board of Directors meeting for September 19th. At Clackamas Fire, our slogan is "We are here for you." What does that mean? We value our people and the people we serve. Our focus is establishing teams, trust, empowerment, accountability, mindset, and service. The meeting come to order per ORS 192.610 to 192.690. For ORS 192.650, this meeting is being recorded. The video recording of this meeting will be placed at Clackamas Fire website. Chief Brown, are there any changes to the agenda?
We do have one small change to the agenda under R1C. We will not be having a business services report out.
Oh, that's not me, I'm Merlin. With that.
You're the best, Chico.
Approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting on August 15 and the joint work session on August 22nd. Does any board members have any comments or changes to share? Anyone? And if there are no changes, since I hear from nobody, the minutes from the regular board meeting on August 15, 2022 and joint work session on August 22, 2022 stand approved as written. Public comments. Area, did anybody have signed up for the public comments?
We did not.
Since we have no one signed up, did they have a chance to raise their hand, raise their hand or something? No? No.
Yeah, we don't have anybody raising their hand right
No,
now.
nobody. Okay, the next item is, this is the last meeting of my presidency. It has been I would say, a phenomenal year as far as activities and the things that we got accomplished and the progress we made. Before I do the election of the officers, I have a small task to do. Mark, would you come up here, please? Mark Whitaker. Now, I have the board president's award of appreciation for CFO Mark Whitaker, Office of Financial Services, and Finance Manager Michael Wong. And that says, the board, with their permission, like to recognize the CFO Mark Whitaker for his proactive actions in leading the district. He has focused on financial management and stability of the organization, creating efficiencies, detecting inaccuracies in the system, and enhancing process while building a financial system that is transparent and fiscally responsible. And I thank you, Chief Brown and Mark Whitaker and the team. Thank you. Give it to the office as well as Lord Michael.
Thank you.
Nominations for president. Nominations are now open for the office of the president.
I nominate Marilyn for president.
Nominations, since we, do we have any other nominations? Nobody dares say anything more. Oh. So now, we have no other nominations by consent. The Director Merlin Ward elected to the position of the president Welcome. Also, you see, miraculously, this thing's appeared after a year.
Hey, back the engine up. I didn't even get to meet in person.
What did you use at home?
Tears.
Then you know.
Thank you. First thing I'll do is gavel you out of order. So before I go on, I would like to thank Thomas for exceptional duty. It seems really easy, you come up, you show up here and you're on the TV for an hour or two. But really, the way that Thomas does the job is very hands-on, very dedicated and thorough. And it is remarkable that you find the time, seriously, I mean that, to continue to assist the fire district. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, so nominations are now open for the office of vice president.
I nominate Jim Searing for vice president.
Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, by consent, Director Searing is now elected to the position of vice president.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nominations are now open for secretary treasurer. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Chris Hodge.
Okay, anyone else? Any more nominations? Okay, there being no further nominations, by consent, Director Haas is elected to the position of secretary treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, presentation, Fire Prevention Month, Fire Marshal Sean Olson. He must be joining us on this.
He's on Zoom.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, sorry, my bad. There was a little bit of a delay there. And please excuse me too, my body, I've came down with a cold since Saturday, so otherwise I would have been there in person. So, and my voice is a little raspy, so I apologize. Congratulations everyone to your new elected positions. And Ariel, was I gonna share my screen or are you sharing yours?
Yeah, unless you want me to share, either way.
Okay, stand by. Okay, excellent. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, on behalf of the Fire Marshal's Office and the Community Services Group, I'd like to present the upcoming October schedule for our Fire Prevention Month. But first of all, the last week or so, we had our annual safety fair, which was an excellent event considering it's been 2 years since we've had it, or maybe a little longer, but it's been a long time. And it was a very successful event. And I think that the biggest part to that success is not always the attendance, but it's the face time that we give to our public. It's the one-on-one interactions, it's the questions that we ask, it's the helmets that we pass out. Being a face out and representing the fire district is very impactful for us and the citizens and the kids that we serve. So I would say we probably had a good attendance of probably 500 to 700 people for that particular day, with everything that was going on that weekend with the fires. So we did have to cut it back just a little bit. And unfortunately, we weren't able to have all of our apparatus there and the fire crews able to be there because of the fires. But overall, the attendance and the public reactions to this event, I think, was a huge win for us in the fire district. And it was great being back. So this year's Fire Prevention Month is based on NFPA's new theme of this year, "A Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape." And it really wraps around the focus of how fires are now and their fire dynamics with our new home constructions, material that are being put into these homes, such as furnishings made of synthetic material, gasoline-based products. Gasoline-based products really has huge impact on the fire dynamic of if somebody does have a fire. Fires now are diminishing the escape time down to about 2 minutes. They can reach up to temperatures up to 2,000 degrees within seconds, creating an environment that's absolutely not livable for our residents. So the importance of planning an escape plan and having 2 ways out is going to be our theme for this next year or this next month, and really supporting that and trying to get a good effective messaging out to our citizens of the district. So what we've got planned for October, and a few of the things that we've learned over the last couple of years and having to make modifications through our COVID restrictions and trying to integrate some of those into our fire prevention month is we'll be having brochures handed out to the school districts. In addition to, we're now back up to doing the in-person school presentations to our senior groups and as well as the station tours. We're still cranking out on a regular basis, and we'll continue that throughout October as our social media and consistent targeted messaging for this time of year. Well, as well as our handouts, fire prevention material, and also importantly is our monthly station open houses, which we have a list there at a handful of our community fire stations throughout the fire district. And that is brief and sweet, but that is what we have planned for October. So do you have any questions?
Yeah. Do we do anything with the private schools in our area, in our district? You mentioned Oregon City and North Clackamas, but what about the private schools we have in the district?
My assumption is the brochures and the handout material will go out to those school districts as well, but I will have to follow up with you on that, Thomas. I apologize, I don't know that answer.
If we don't, I think we should consider reaching out to the private school also.
I will definitely take note of that and I'll pass that along. I would agree. It's trying to balance out workloads and making sure that we're trying to reach out to as many as we can. So we would definitely should include that. So I'll follow up.
Hey, Sean, I saw on the open house list that Halloween night, there's 2, one at Eagle Creek and one at Gladstone. I know the Eagle Creek open house Halloween night's been a real long-standing tradition in the Eagle Creek community. Is that the same at Gladstone? So they're just kind of picking up what, or are they adding that? Is that new this year?
Gladstone historically has had a large Halloween celebration. They shut the street down. And the station is part of that celebration. So a lot of interaction with the public.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, so it'd be great to build. I saw you had pending, and it would be nice if you're able to do both of those for those communities, but.
So are you going to have a dunk tank for the chief?
No, whoa, Thomas. The reason it's pending, you want to share why it's
Yeah,
pending?
the pending comment is mainly because the remodel at the fire station is not complete.
Oh.
It's a remodel, it's had delays. So they're looking at having it done mid to late October. So push fingers.
And we checked with all the dunk tanks and there's some mechanical problems and they're fixing them, so those are pending as well. Everyone it's weird, everyone in the Northwest, they're all getting fixed.
I thought it was water shortage.
That, yes, water shortage, thank you, water shortage. That's what it is.
Jay, did you have something?
Sean, I just saw the notice for the open house and the safety fair the day after that fire. And I'd like to commend you and the team for being able to kind of pick up the slack. That would have been an easy one to just cancel, given that we were kind of a little bit busy, and you guys were able to pull it off, even in an abbreviated form is outstanding. I appreciate it.
So thank you. I appreciate that. And honestly, we had a lot of fun. It had been a long time, and to get both groups together along as with our volunteers, we had a lot of fun with it. So we were kind of blessed, unfortunately, with the smoke because it blocked out the sun and it was supposed to be a 100-degree day. So that didn't happen. So we were pretty happy about it. So thank you.
I think it's really, really cool is we even had family members step in, understanding the situation that we were in. Some of community services and fire prevention's family members came in, threw on shirts and helped out as well. So super cool.
Great.
Don't go away. Because we're gonna move right into the business action items. B1, request board approval of Proclamation 22-01 to designate the month of October 2022 as Fire Prevention Month. Anybody have any further questions for the fire marshal? Then do I hear a motion to approve Proclamation 22-01 to designate the month of October 2022 as Fire Prevention Month with the theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Ariel, please call the roll.
Chris,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
there you go, Sean.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I appreciate the support.
Feel
Thank
better.
you.
Okay, action item B2, request board approval of the VoIP system vendor, Chief Technology Officer.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry I was on your last one, ex-president, Tommy, but congratulations. Yes, in front of you is the request to have the fire chief sign an agreement for a hosted voice over IP vendor. I tried in the simplest form is our phone system from the cloud. We'll gain some savings going to a more modern technology. If there's any questions on what you have in front of you, please ask, if I can answer those.
You have a question? Yeah.
Does this change any numbers or any logistics for us?
No, sir.
Nothing. Everything changes. We just go in the clouds rather than working through them.
Yes, sir. Same phone numbers, better flexibility.
So I wasn't clear on exactly how much this is costing. In some places it says this much per month, in other places it says it's that much per month. And I don't know if you're adding those two together or if they're complementary. I mean, the hardware is clear, but the service component cost is unclear.
So software as a service normally has a higher startup cost. That's that first probably $7 grand or so you saw.
Yeah,
And then the monthly cost, once you get the software in place, is your same monthly, it's like $4 grand. It's about 48 grand a year, which is based on what we have right now. Our current system is like $25,000 less a year going to the hosted solution.
okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for doing something. No more questions. Do I hear a motion to authorize the board secretary and the fire chief to execute the voice over internet protocol, VoIP, agreement with Go-To Communications, Inc.?
I so move.
Second. Madam President?
Yeah.
If I may, this agreement does not require the board secretary's signature, so this would just be requesting the fire chief to
Okay,
execute
thank
the
you.
agreement.
So the motion is amended then to delete the authorization from the board secretary. Is that acceptable?
First chance to sign something.
You can still sign.
Wow.
Gosh, Howard, it's slipping right through your fingers.
I know.
You can blame Chief.
I will.
Okay,
You know,
okay with the second?
this board meeting used to be very serious. What happened?
We got rid of you. All right, so the second, okay with the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so Ariel, will you now please call the roll?
Jim,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes,
Thomas.
Yes.
okay, thank you very much. Work this. B3, request board approval of resolution 22-04 for tax anticipation note. Chief Financial Officer Mark Whitaker.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, this is very similar to what the board approved last year. So these would be tax anticipation notes that we would borrow if we need it for cash flow purposes, most likely at the beginning of November. You know, the way tax anticipation notes work is we essentially be able to borrow that cash and then immediately pay it back, or not within a few weeks, hopefully pay it back from our property tax receipts once they come in later November. we're largely in the same position we were in last year. Our cash is roughly the same. So I don't anticipate that we'll need to actually pull the trigger on these tax anticipation notes, but our cash balance is likely to get less than $1 million. And so just to make sure we have the proper reserves and are able to respond to any emergencies or unexpected events, I think it's prudent to have these. The interest rate this year is significantly higher due to the interest rate environment. So it's going to be about 5.4%, whereas last year it was under 2. So if we were to say borrow $1 million of that, it would be roughly $4,500 for a single month, which is the longest period that we would need to borrow because we'll be able to pay it off with our property tax receipts before the end of November. The other costs would be the legal fees and bond counsel, which are the same as last year at $7,000. And so unfortunately, we'll have to pay those regardless of whether we need to borrow it or not, because we need to have this agreement in place. And I think that's pretty much it, unless there's questions.
What will we cap at? What is the note? How much we giving?
We're asking for up to 3 million.
Okay.
And once again, I don't anticipate we need that much, but there's no additional cost to ask for a little bit more just in case, right?
Is that we have been doing historically, it has been similar amount?
Yeah, last year we did 4.
Okay.
And once again, didn't actually need it. So, you know, at most we would have to cover part of one pay period, which would be far less than 3 million. So,
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, Mark. So there's no bank fee? There's only legal fee?
right, the bank, Key Bank, we've been a loyal customer for many years, and so they're banking on the interest if we needed to borrow, but there's no fee from them to do this.
Okay, that's good. I was a little confused. I think it's, if I read this correctly, that they're going to establish a separate special account for the thing. But then it said in the whereas that the proceeds go into the general fund. So-
Right, so what we would do is we'd set up essentially a sub fund or sub account in the general fund. Just to be clear to the lender that those funds are kept track of, but we wouldn't be creating an entirely new fund that would require board approval, and I don't think would be prudent given the temporary nature of this borrowing.
Oh, yeah, we've never done it, but I hadn't seen, special account with a capital S and a capital A. So I thought, oh, this must be important. Okay. anyone
One more
else?
question. In the past, I thought we were paying some fees to the bank, were we? Or this is the first time? Yeah.
No,
They have waived.
I guess we are paying the bank's legal fees, right?
Oh, it's there.
So,
I see.
Right, so we pay for our bond counsel because we need to have independent bond counsel to protect our interests, and then the bank has their legal fees.
So they get some money.
So yeah, they do, but yeah.
Well, the feds are talking about raising the rate again this week. I've heard even up to 1%. So does it just tack on to that? So it
Yeah, I
could be
mean,
6%.
so I would assume that the bank has that built into their 5.4. In fact, different from last year, they actually gave us different rates by time period. So if we were to borrow after December, they were going to raise the rate even higher.
Oh.
We won't need to borrow after December. Any of our borrowing will happen in November. So I didn't give you guys that rate. But if we did have to borrow, they've quoted that at 5.7%. So they've kind of built in
Oh.
this rising interest rate environment into their contract for us, but we won't need that. So.
Well,
And we have, assuming this is approved tonight, we would lock in that rate at 5.4 tomorrow. So we wouldn't have to deal with any potential.
So that will be fixed rate,
increases.
not variable.
anybody else? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve resolution 22-04 for a tax anticipation note of up to $3 million?
So moved. As long as I get to sign it.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved in second.
Yeah, second.
Further discussion? Okay, Okay, Ariel, please call the roll.
Thomas,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Other business, OB1, review and first reading of the board policy manual. This is done in September of every year. So Assistant Chief Brian Stewart has the enviable job of having done this.
Thanks, Madam President, members of the board. Well, I have the opportunity to sit in front of you tonight and present it. It certainly was a team effort from staff looking at places where they thought there would be recommendations to make to the board, and then certainly preparing the document. So as we went through this annual review, there's the ongoing maintenance, and you'll see some minor clarification pieces in there and other things that look to move us forward as an organization and address some of the concerns that the board has had in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, such as removing the gender bias terminology. But staff really looked at three things that we wanted to address. A couple that came from the board and a couple that came from staff. One was looking at language to reflect the board's authorization of the fire chief to utilize the assistant chiefs the way that he had envisioned. You'll see that language in Article 11. We also wanted to make sure that the accounting, debt management, and purchasing policies were up to date with the new CFO. And then lastly, we were asked to look at what the leave of absence policy may be, and to address that succinctly here. That was not within this policy or within the board policy. It's within the leave without pay policy. So separately, the fire chief and staff will be addressing that to reflect the desires of the board. But with that, what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through most of the packet with you. I'll leave the kind of the scrivener changes, the minor edits alone, but I have a host of ones to walk through. And then as we approach the finance section, I'll turn the time over to CFO Whitaker to walk through his changes. And please, as we go through, let me know if you have questions or if there are things that the board would like to comment on or see changes to, please let me know. It is your document. So if we start on page 39 of the board packet, and I'll use those because those are consistent across, it's the preamble. And there's just minor changes, but what I wanted to do is make sure that we reflected our current agreement with the city of Gladstone to provide all services, and then also acknowledge that we provide services to other organizations as well. And I didn't go into the point of outlining which entity got what service, but I wanted to address that. The other thing that we looked at doing was just striking the logo, striking the patch from the page. Keeping the logo, but there's thought about what that patch may look like in the future. So we wanted to remove that from the policies and be able to have those conversations later. And then moving forward to page 44 of your board packet, you'll see a couple of red highlights. Some of those, what we did is we just removed some of those documents that were awkwardly inserted throughout, and I moved those to appendices in the back. So those references have been updated. But the substantive one is under Article 5, there at the bottom of the page. I inserted the language that said it was neither an employee or volunteer firefighter. That was included in the ordinance, but wasn't reflected in policy. And that's certainly one of the key aspects of what qualifies an individual for membership. So I thought it was relevant to highlight there. And then if you move forward to page 46, under Article 5.7, again, you'll see a couple changes at the top, which just reference the change of the appendix. But down at the bottom, there was a substantive change in working with CFO Whitaker. We identified that what is outlined or lined out in red was no longer current practice in terms of looking at per diem and how we report those. So we wanted to strike that. But we did keep in the language that speaks to the board's interest in protecting and preserving the public trust and transparency. So what used to be done perhaps in a different manner is now managed through Munis and different accounting practices. So the assurance is still there, just done differently. Any questions thus far? Okay, we'll move on to page 49, Article 7.7. This is the district, the board of directors calendar. And really the substantive piece here is just striking under January and July, the kind of the review of the strategic business plan. and inserting in July that we'll be presenting that after it's been developed along a different calendar. And then on that same page, you'll see under 7.8 that we've removed a little bit of language and asked the subcommittee thereof biannually review the strategic plan. The intent is to have the board involved in that process on a monthly basis in terms of reporting and updating. But I anticipate that the fire chief will work with the executive committee to review it on a semi-annual basis. And then just similar to this year, we'll have members of the board participate in that annual planning process. Yes, ma'am.
Chief Stewart, I see that it's been that way for a long time, but sometimes I think there's a confusion using the word biannual versus semi-annual. It's that even though it is correct, it means the same thing. But I think a lot of people think biannual means every 2 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so if we mean semi-annual, what could we use that?
Certainly, yeah, we'll make that change. Thank you. Let's see, so we talked about 7.8, going on to page 52 in your packet, article 9.1. We struck that we will not be causing the newspaper to publish any ads. We're not required to do so by law, and there's a cost to do so. We are required to notify them, which we do, whether they opt to publish the press release or the notification is up to them. And then under 9.3, the other kind of substantive piece is just updating to reflect current Oregon statute, which requires that members of the public who attend online, or that they will be allowed to attend online, can also participate as if they were here in person. So we have to afford people with the same opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
On 9.1,
Yes,
just back on that, since if we're not going to be publishing notices, how is it that we convey to the public that we don't have a meeting?
So we do it through a couple of means. Certainly, we publish it on our website. We do it through social media activity, and we also push out to our media outlets a notification of our board meetings, which is different than, say, budget meeting, which we are required to publish. But I would defer to Ariel for her expertise.
Yeah, so we push it out through Flash Alert, which is what the Public Information Office uses to push out all of our news releases. And it's also published on the Oregon Transparency website, which is the state website for public meetings.
Oh, I looked on that bed and said, oh,
I will check. I put it on there. I will check and make sure that it published it.
yeah, that's not what part. Okay, thank you. That is troublesome to me because because we've already published it and I understand there is a cost and a lot of cost, but the notification of the public is critical for us. We'll give it a try and see if we get any complaints.
Okay, certainly. And again, these are simply staff recommendations. This is your policy, so. Thank you for the input. Let's see, 9.1, we talked about 9.3. So going to page 58. This gets into articles 11.6 and 11.7. The language is a little longer, but again, the intent of the fire chief when he put the assistant chief roles in place was to ensure the efficient operations and management of the agency. And he really saw those roles. And when I say assistant chiefs, I also include chief financial officer Whitaker. He holds that same designation within the organization as his left hand and his right hand, and being able to administer the department in the way that it needs to be done. So it's continuous, seamless, and efficient. And so this 11.6 looks for kind of the day-to-day pieces where he can delegate the powers that were entitled to him by the board to the assistant chiefs. And then 11.7 looks into, in the case of his incapacitation, what that may look like, and those powers deferring to us, since he would no longer be able to defer them or delegate them to us until such time as the board is able to make a selection of how they choose to fill that position. Moving forward, looking at page 63, and this is just looking at how I collected the appendixes that are referenced in the document, and Ariel added those to the table of contents. for ease of use. But again, it's just the map, the ordinances and the resolutions that were there, as well as we've caught the board of directors, committees and liaisons chart. I would anticipate that we will have, we may have changes to that announced next meeting. And with that, for that portion, for section 1 of the manual is all I have. Happy to review any questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Chief Whitaker to kind of walk through section 2. Sir.
There were a couple of dates on the preamble on the mergers that I can follow up with you afterwards if you want.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There were a couple of dates that were wrong.
Okay. Yeah, we turn it over to Mark for the financial section.
Okay, so the board policy manual includes a number of financial policies that are attached to the end, so we've updated some of those, so I'll quickly run through it. The first one, starting on page 69 of the packet, is the accounting policies and procedures manual. There have been some significant changes to this. Unfortunately, the original document was so old that I don't have the red line changes for you here. This is just an updated version. But essentially, we've been working with our new auditor to update these policies and procedures to match our current practice and also to incorporate some of the auditor's recommendations. So that's now reflected in this document. The old accounting policies and procedures still refer to some software and processes that we no longer use. So this is trying to capture where we're at without duplicating other policies that are found elsewhere. So I don't think there's any substantial changes. It's just once again representing how we're operating currently. The other big change, I think, which is shown in red, starts on page 89, and this is just adding in the exhibits to the cash management policy that were left out in the prior version. So I didn't make any substantial changes to the cash management policy except updating some of the job titles and things like that, but it just adds those exhibits in. And then probably the most substantial change, it starts the purchasing policy at the last attachment, starting on the page 113 of the board packet. And one of the finance division's goals this year is to drastically overhaul and update the purchasing policy and provide training for staff and employees to make sure that we're following the purchasing policy. What the changes I've made here are more of an interim level until we can get that larger scope accomplished. But essentially the largest change is both on page 114 and 115, where consistent with the fire chief's desire to delegate some authority, it would authorize the assistant chiefs and the chief financial officer to authorize transactions between $15,000 and $50,000, which currently is only allowed for the fire chief to approve. So it would give a larger range of employees that could authorize those purchases. Anything above 50,000 would still require going to the board outside of certain special exemptions in the purchasing policy. So that's about, I think.
Invoice procedure.
Yeah, and there was also substantial changes. And once again, these are more of a procedure, I think, than a policy. But on page 124 of the packet, we updated a section about our invoice payment to reflect our current practice, which was a change we made earlier this summer to try to improve our workflow related to getting invoices paid in a timely manner and confirming that we were actually paying the proper price and for the goods that we actually received. So, so that again is an update to match current practice to what we're currently doing. I think that's it for the finance policies.
So those are the recommended changes in the first reading that we have. Certainly, I'll make the change to the semi-annual piece. We'll check the Oregon Transparency website, make sure that's capturing what we want to capture, and then I'll follow up with the director on the date. There's one thing I did not review.
Any further questions? You'll have another chance for next month because we have. Okay.
Thank you.
Chief Sept. good job.
Very good.
OB2, board committee liaison reports. Okay, the only one I've listed is the executive committee. Does anybody else got a report?
Do you want to talk about ours? You'll work for next one. With Chief Huffman.
Yeah, would you go?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last week, Thomas and I met with Chief Huffman over with the EMS and talked about EMS stuff. We met for about an hour and a half right here in this room. It was a great meeting. Most of it focused around just getting to know him. He's relatively new to the Clackamas Fire family, so we spent a lot of time just talking about him and his background and how he got to where he is and why he got to where he is and those kind of things. And so, and then we also talked a little bit about his vision moving forward with what EMS is doing. Has not yet, maybe he'll talk about it, I'm sure, in your report, but we're filling the current vacant position that's out there and trying to figure out, he's just kind of trying to figure out what EMS is going to look like at Clackamas Fire in the future, trying to figure out what that is. And then the next thing is how are they going to get there? And that's kind of where he's at, but I won't steal his thunder. I'm sure he'll talk about that in the meeting, but it was a very good, we also talked a little bit about low acuity challenges in the district and maybe some of the thoughts on dealing with some of those low acuity challenges, responding to low acuity 911 callers. Spent an ample amount of time on that. I think he understands the board's heart on trying to get the right people to the right caller at the right time and give them the proper care. And his challenge, right? And the challenge is figuring out how the district's going to do that. And so more to come on that, I'm sure, but it was a good meeting. And then the more I get to talk to him, the more I'm glad he's here because he's going to be just another huge asset to the organization. So, but I appreciate the time. I appreciate the fact we got to know him a little bit better, and it was a really good time, good meeting. So, anything else, Thomas?
No, I think I made a recommendation to the chief that as an organization, when we have a new staff joining us, whether it is at any level, at first 3 to 6 months, they'll be attending a board meeting so that they can understand our organization from all different levels. So that is something that I really like to recommend the chief to look into possibility. I don't know who would be administering that, but something that will be I encourage everyone to come and see, because there are people coming from out of state or out of the other districts that may not have known. So it will be beneficial for building relationship with the staff and the board.
The other thing we did, I forgot to mention, is we decided amongst us is that we would like to meet quarterly with Chief Huffman, just because there is so many changes going on in EMS and as he's building his program. And so it wasn't more than 15 minutes after we broke the meeting that Ariel just hammered our emails with meeting requests. So we already got those on the books for the next, I don't know how long, 10 years or so. I don't know how many of those did you send out?
5 years.
I would like to request that Jay say no acuity 3 times fast.
No signature for you? Denial of himself.
That's tough night. Okay, the executive committee met on September 6th, 2022, and we had a tremendously wonderful presentation from Shelby Hopkins. It's so good that she's coming next month to share it with all of us, so I'm not going to bore anybody with it because she will present it way better than I did and could do. And so there are a number of other issues that we discussed, but that will have been addressed here tonight. So anything else?
Well, one of the things that I added was that going with the philosophy of the inclusiveness and the transparency, not only for the executive committee, but the whole board, be participating in all the information, just book in FYI for the board, even if there is no action to be taken. Because one of the fun thing about here, this board is we are rotating the all the positions, so it will be good to keep everybody in the know, so that when their turn come to be the president, vice president, whatever, even secretary without signature. Wow.
Gary could sit at the end of the table.
I'm gonna start
Everything
signing
goes
my
that
name to
way.
everything.
No. Again, I really want to emphasize how much fun we have in doing the things we do. And that shows we feel comfortable in our skin with everybody here. It's not about me or you, it's about us. Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else? Okay, OB3, are there any board members who have informational updates or some sort of comments to share in regarding district business, please? And not about the city of Happy Valley.
No, we'll leave it for later.
Actually, you know, I do have one thing. I actually know personally some of the people that got evacuated after the Niagara fire. And their houses obviously were not impacted on that, but they actually sent me pictures of, as they're leaving, the pictures of the fire as they're leaving, and they sent it to us and goes, we're on the way out. And then, of course, they also contacted me when they were headed back in the next day, and or 2 days later, and they're I don't know, how do you say it? They were so relieved that their property didn't get damaged, and it was, you know, just amazing. You know, they were very amazed that they didn't lose their property. And then, you know, so that's a huge thank you. And when you see that, it's one thing to see it on the paper, it's one thing to say that Clackamas did all this stuff, but when you actually get to talk to the people and you see the pictures that they text you on their phones, it says, that shows that I'm leaving, I could be seeing my house for the last time, this is what I'm doing, and then they actually get to come back to it, and then they reflect that back to you, their relief of that, and that's where it's real, that's where it really is real, that these people are very thankful for what the district did, what the people did to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
I have a request for Chris, if it is appropriate, one of that email you sent to all of us. You want to share any or I think that'll be nice too.
I would just, you know,
This
I
is
would
for
like
the
to build
benefit
on
of
what
the staff.
Jay, there was a lot done on that fire, and credit where credit's due. I also know some people that live out there, and one of the guys asked me, he said, for God's sake, how many fire engines do you guys own?
All of them.
And he said, did you send all of them? And I said, no, we didn't, but we sent everything we could, and basically, I said, we were the backbone of that fire incident. You know, a little agency like Estacada, you know, they're gonna be overwhelmed by something like that. And I commend the chief and the team for basically pulling out the stops and recognizing what could have happened and not waiting and sending everything we could, because it made the difference. That fire, with the way the wind and everything else was, that fire could have been in Oregon City in a couple of hours. And the people out there are very appreciative. I know a young lady that was getting married that day. And she was able to get married because you guys got the fire stopped. And there was a little bit of smoke, but they made it through. And the people out there appreciate it, and I appreciate it. And I want the team to know that regardless of when people try and take credit where credit may or may not be due, I know what they did. We know what they did, and we appreciate it.
Thanks for saying that.
I would say that for my informational update is I was privileged to attend the promotional ceremony last week. And it was a great event, I thought. The chief did a really fine job, of course, but what he did is he laid out what each of these respective positions he expects them to do. Just a thumbnail, you know, no. But I think that it was important for everybody there to hear, oh, this is what battalion chiefs are expected to do. This is what lieutenants are expected to do. And it was, of course, with the was a very nice place to have it, comfy chairs, lots of room, and talking. But Yeah, I thought it was very well done and both, everybody who got a promotion to be commended, but I thought it went really well.
Thank you. Man. Proud of our people.
Anybody else? Okay, informational items only, division and department reports. R1A, Office of the Fire Chief.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, just a couple things before I get into some operational highlights, which will make Rick and Dan giggle because sometimes I take their topics. But the fire district, we were very busy the month of August with social media postings. Some examples include the fire prevention educational messages, updates about all the conflagrations throughout the state and the fires, and then just every single public relations event that we were engaged in the month of August. Truly an all hands effort from support of the fire district, and that community front has been very impressed with community services and the public information office with the messages that they've been delivering via social media, all our avenues. We talked a little bit about McIver incident, and I couldn't have been prouder of the Clackamas Fire District's incident management team, the crews that responded, the forward thinking of increasing staffing that day to prepare ourselves and our communities, the staffing of Crew 30 and the expertise that they brought to that incident, led by crew boss Matt Hernandez, and just outstanding effort by the IMT from Clackamas Fire and every single person on the apparatus that responded to mitigate that event. 42 apparatus and support vehicles responded with 87 personnel. And so we mean it when we say we're here for you, we're here for everybody. That's just couldn't have been prouder of our team and our family for how they responded and mitigated that event. Just, yes.
If I could, our firefighter that had the cardiac,
Thank you.
how's he doing?
He's home recovering. A stent was placed. I'm not going to mention his name here, but if you know him, because you guys know his name, he told the cardiologist, he says, I'm going to go home and I'm going to prove to you that I can go home because I'm going to pick you up and throw you on my shoulder and carry you down the hallway just to let you know that I'm feeling good. Like he said, the cardiologist didn't think that was too funny. So, but needless to say, he was released. He's home resting comfortably, and he says he's going to be back in no time. So, and I appreciate you bringing that up because I want to speak to that event, an incident within an incident. You have a wildfire running, home on fire, and one of your firefighters go down with chest pain, not wanting to say anything, understanding the emergency that's in front, but the crew had the awareness to see that something wasn't right, and their actions got him to the hospital. And it just shows the caliber of people that we have that service the communities and each other day in and day out. To be able to handle a stressful situation like that, not only fire coming and bearing down on homes, but to be able to have the wherewithal to take care of the down firefighter and get him to where he needed to be, and also mitigating everything. It's just like cannot be happier with their actions, and their actions directly saved the firefighter's life. So that was Captain Brown and AO Trent Morgan. So from Station 11, phenomenal effort there. I appreciate you for bringing that up. Thank you. And then I'm going to be quiet after this because I've already eaten up all my time talking, but I just want to give just a quick little heads up on what the end of August looked like into that McIver incident for Clackamas Fire family. Since August 29th, there was the McIver fire, 15 working structure fires, 5 vehicle fires, 45 brush fires, 2 vehicle entrapments, 1 high angle rescue, 2,523 medical calls, and 12 cardiac arrests. that Clackamas Fire responded to and mitigated. That's what our people do day in and day out. The support staff that we have for the Clackamas Fire family, help them in doing so. It just shows that forward focus of being here for our communities. And so with that, that is all that I have to report. If you have any additional questions.
Questions for the chief? Thank you. R1B, Office of Strategic Services, Assistant Chief.
Thank you very much. August was a busy month process. So working through a few things like facilities. We had a great meeting, Chief Huff and myself with David at the county, speaking about urban renewal dollars, getting more familiar about the process of what we could spend money on, where we could spend it, and what it takes to have money reallocated over the 130th campus. This week, Chief Huffman has been working on, or previously, but this week is kind of the culminating week, has been working on some broad estimates of costs and expenditures. We want to do some improvements to Station 1 to provide for better security and assuring response reliability out of that station. And then transferring some of the other dollars to 130th, which would improve really training for, again, reflecting today's workforce, the needs of today's workforce, or where we want that workforce to be, making sure we have adequate facilities for the next, 10 to 20 years out of a building. If you picture the building on the south end of the campus, where wellness is, that kind of warehouse building, there's some designs and ideas about building that out into training space or training offices. They've already put a training classroom in the back, which is kind of a slick piece where they can bring a fire apparatus in. The recruits can see it. They can do some activities inside, out of the weather, kind of extend their training time and reduce the time going from classroom to drill ground and back. So that's been this week. Gladstone, that remodel has been delayed a little bit. It was expected to be done on, or projected to be done September 27th. Initially, as the chief likes to say, it's a remodel project and there's expected to be delays. So whether it was the electrician or a post that ended up being there that we didn't expect to be there, different things, we're looking at the end of October to have our crews out of the temporary quarters and into that station.
At least I haven't found any tanks in the ground or something like that.
For a buried house.
We'll see. There's still a month to go. IT's been busy. IT, you've heard a few things last month. You talked about the mobility pieces with the laptops and the NDCs. You folks helped authorize that. The VoIP pieces. But really what it's doing is it's improving our connectivity and our reliability of providing service across a host of things. And he's managing to save total cost of dollars downstream. So some investments in hardware, investments in cloud computing is going to pay off for us to the tunes of a few $1,000s per month. Those all add up. Oscar's also been working with facilities and mainly logistics on Sonotron, our door access pieces. And I bring that up, one, we're trying to reduce our cost there, but two, I want to highlight Patty Gonzalez. She did a deep dive into some budget or some billing stuff for us. And she found $6,800 of overbilling over the last couple of years that Sonotron is crediting us. She's done that. She's worked to compile, reduce our number of fire alarm companies down to Sonotron to streamline some things. So staff across this organization are doing good work, and Patty is just emblematic of that this month. Also this month, just want to mention that Matt, my planning assistant, has done a few things. He's of course launched the strategic plan. He's been meeting with each of the division heads this month and next month to make sure that we're on path for that. But he also completed a growth projection for us. So looking at between today, where development is going to happen and what we could look like in 2040. So we're about 224,000 people today. At a 1% growth rate, we'll be at about 270,000 people in our boundaries in 2040. And then as he delved into a couple other things, I just thought a couple numbers were interesting to share. So Station 1, which is the second busiest planning zone that we have, currently has 218 calls per thousand. Station 6, which is not the slowest station, it has the lowest number of calls per thousand, which is 51 per thousand population. Anyway, just some interesting tidbits there, and that's my report.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, I understand Chief Peter's not here, so we're going to give a report for him. Okay. R1D, Office of Financial Services, CFO Whitaker.
Okay, thank you again. The financial report for August is on page 133 of your packet, so that shows our current financial information for the year through the end of August. It's a little early in the fiscal year to be forecasting exactly where we're headed. There's a lot of data to come in, but just, to update, in the budget, I highlighted 3 potential risks to the budget. One would be kind of a major emergency or disaster, right? The MacIver fire, we did experience some overtime and some upstaffing costs, but it looks like we'll be able to go through FEMA to hopefully get a portion of that reimbursed. So that shouldn't be a huge factor. Another big risk, of course, is always our health claims as a self-insured entity. And once again, since roughly the middle of last year, those claims have been trending in a stable course, and we budgeted pretty conservatively for that. So I feel comfortable there. And then the third risk is our operational replacement overtime. And as you can see on the finance report, similar to last year through the end of August, ops replacement costs have been quite high. And I think there's a couple reasons for that to happen. And I think we'll be okay in the long run. Because unlike last year, right, we had operational replacement that was way over budget, but we also were starting in a place where we budgeted a $1.4 million deficit. Then you had ops replacement, then you had a $1 million property tax mistake. That was a lot to handle. I think we can manage just ops replacement being a little over budget. The other difference compared to last year is that we have a plan to contain it and manage it, right? So we're managing the size of our floater pool through additional academies to make sure that overtime doesn't consume a larger portion of our budget than we expected. But it's definitely something that we're watching, and it's kind of the one big risk that I see out there still right now on that. We'll get some data on property tax assessed valuation in October, and then of course the receipts in November that will allow us to do a new forecast probably at the beginning of December to kind of get a better picture of where we are both this year and next year as we start to plan for next year's budget. I think the last thing I'll mention is something we're looking at doing, which is to look at a little more investments for the district. So Director Searing brought this up, but interest rates right now are climbing. For the last few years, they've been pretty static. But right now what that's doing is it's creating a spread between what we can get in the local government investment pool and what we could get, say, investing in short-term treasury bills or other saving vehicles. So what we're going to look to do once we get some property tax receipts in November and have some cash to invest is if there's a way for us to earn a higher rate of return in treasury bills as opposed to keeping all of our excess cash in the LGIP, which is what we've done in the last few years, just because there was no real interest rates weren't high enough to be worth an investment. So under the cash management policy, we can go ahead and do that without board approval. But if we do head in that direction, we'll probably add a section to the finance report so that we can keep you up to date each month on where our dollars are invested as opposed to just parking them in the LGIP. And I think that's it for my update today. If there's any questions.
Can I just add one piece to the overtime risk that Mark was speaking to? We also want to call to the fact that we, in the effort of staffing Gladstone, we had to shift personnel from the floater pool to staff Gladstone until that academy graduated, and they hit the line on August 1st. So there was revenue brought in from the Gladstone to help with that, but that's a piece of what you're seeing there as well.
Mark, the reimbursement we get from FEMA or the federal grant, what's the difference between that and the actual expense? I'm not talking about the equipment, personnel. Is there a deficit or is it extra? How do they calculate that?
So in this particular instance, they would reimburse 75% of our actual costs. But there are certain costs that are eligible and ineligible. So really they'll only reimburse for overtime, and they'll reimburse for costs that occur, after the incident started, right? So all of our preparations, upstaffing prior to the actual start of the fire, it's unlikely that we get reimbursed for those.
But
So
even
there's-
then, we only get 75%.
So I had understood that in addition to wrestling with the overtime issue, we have a lot of leave taking that is an issue. Because is that contributing to the overtime, and how is that being managed?
That is contributing to the overtime. And, you know, the leave usage has gone up at least for the first 2 months compared to the first 2 months of the fiscal year last year. And, you know, I think we're just monitoring that. The leave and how it's taken, I believe is collectively bargained. So we're just following the bargain agreement.
Anybody else? Okay, R1E, Office of Emergency Services. Division Chief Hoffman.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. Yes, the chief did steal a little thunder here, but, which is nice. I'd like to add to his report, though, that in addition to all the emergencies within the district, we did have incident management team members assigned to fires in California, Joseph, Grants Pass, and Oak Ridge during the same time. So a lot of moving pieces with the response forces, and in addition to that, to add to the Guyver fire, the pre-positioning of the Clackamas incident management team was really well handled. In my opinion and experience was substantially preparatory to do the right motions to get forces out there to stop the fire from coming this way. So I do think that even though it's not reimbursable, it was very valuable to the district. As Director Cross mentioned, the training officer and the EMS captain positions were extended in civil service. They will close on the 25th. We'll review the applications and have the waiting period, and then hopefully make some quick action on interviewing those personnel that applied. So we're looking at hopefully filling those spots as fast as possible before the year ends. And I'll just close by saying the EMS committee meeting was also very nice for me too. It was nice to get to know the directors better. And I feel like we're in a good direction. Every fire service, and especially this district, like helping people, but we also have to keep our big assets ready for major emergencies and major medical calls. So we're going to work through all the issues and continue to provide service. That's all I have.
But there's not a question. I want to say information that I have. The next few months, we'll be getting our carbohydrates from Rick's business.
Oh.
Speak right to her.
If I could interject, because it's kind of an EMS and a finance item, so I was gonna leave it to Rick, but he missed it, so I'll take it. So last December, we applied through the Assistance to Firefighters grant for them to fund new cardiac monitors for the district. And so last month we received word that they had approved that grant up to just under $1 million. And so that's a big benefit to our capital plan and our ability to fund that replacement that's coming up. So I believe Rick and his team will be working on the procurement of those and figuring out how much we can get for what the grant authorized. But again, congratulations to Chief Doug Whiteley and Josh Santos, who were the main authors of that grant application last December.
Excellent.
That was one of those capital items that we had told everybody that was a huge risk for us moving forward, and it's a huge win for us.
All right. Thank you. R1F, Professional Firefighters of Clackamas County, Local 1159, Shop Steward and Gordian, joining us by Zoom. I guess.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I'm at work today. Nice to see everybody. So the local's been busy with political season, the apprenticeship program, and just working on D-shift stuff. the transition to B shift. But other than that, I don't have anything to report. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you guys have any questions for me though.
Any questions for the shop steward?
I just have a comment, Andrew, that maybe you can reflect, at least from me and maybe the rest of the board, of the folks out there doing great work that Chief Brown was telling us about, and how busy you guys have been, and of course the MacGyver fire, but not just the MacGyver fire. You know, it sounds like this last, so especially the last about month, you guys have really been hammered, and so I want you guys to know, the local to know, that we know, we hear you, we hear the chief's report, we hear you, and it is appreciated. So let the folks know, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
R1D, Volunteer Association Report, Chaplain Kenton Johnson. By Zoom.
Sorry about that. Madam President, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to bring to you the report from the association, the Volunteer Association. Jerry Carney, for some reason, thought he deserved some time off, and so he's on a cruise. I think he gets to do that once every 10 years or so. I hope so. So I bring you the report as Vice President of the association. In the month of August, Station 12, as far as coverage goes, they had 20 nights out of the 31. Station 13 had 1 night out of 31 that was covered. Rehab Station 21 covered 10 nights of 31, and then rehab covered from home 5 nights as well. That was accomplished with 22 suppression and 15 volunteer support volunteers. And while it's not listed, chaplains are on call 24/7 as well. And I'm excited to say that that includes a new chaplain, new to us, new to the district, Brian Early. And I've known Brian since 2013 or 2014, a great chaplain. I'm really excited about having him on. In August, the drill topics included a bailout refresher, incident command structure phase 2, patient assessment, water mapping, and wellness. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to at least try to answer them.
Questions for the chaplain? None. Good job.
Nice
Thank you.
job, Ken.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Ken.
Thanks. Oh, and I should say appreciative word for those beautiful pictures that Chief Olson had in his presentation. I don't know if you saw the dog with the floppy ears, but he had some nice pictures in there.
All right. Okay, board members, you have correspondence and informational issues in the packet. Are there any comments or questions regarding any of them? Okay.
Marilyn, can I just add one thing? This is
Sure.
way out of line, or not out of line, but out of sequence. I just want to thank Thomas for his being the board president. We went through a lot this last year as a fire district, and Thomas led with a cool, calm demeanor, and helped us through together as a team and as a family through some of the toughest times as a board and as an organization that we've had. And so happy belated birthday, and hopefully you stuff your face with some cake here shortly. Okay, so thank you.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay.
Jay, can you talk about a medical officer, the new medical officer?
Yeah, he talked about that. It's been well back a few days until he can
Confirm.
get through civil service and stuff. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of on the next meeting thing, but I would once again like to encourage us to find a way to get the public back in person now that the pandemic is over or in hiatus or whatever we're calling it this week. But it would be nice to have the people, I mean, might take a little rearranging, but it's really nice to have the public back, because I know it's something only like 65% of people have internet access, which is, you know, a little tough to believe, but it is the case. So it means 1/3 of our citizens don't have a way to watch us other than maybe a telephone. So if we could find a way to make this work with the owl and the TV and everything else, it would make a grumpy old man happy.
You're not grumpy.
Kind of social media announcement of some sort. about the meaning of opportunity. But legally, but we still have to provide hybrid, don't we?
Yep. No matter what, we will be in this format right here, as far as a hybrid, it's legal, or as.
So if we add in-person audience citizens, how would we arrange that here?
We've had a couple concepts that we've been messing around with in the room to include behind Chief Stewart, Chief Huffman, and Ariel to being there in the corner so that they can see. There's a couple different options that we're looking at.
So you are looking into that?
Oh, yeah.
The main thing is, my concern was about the screen being in the middle.
And I think we need to keep it that way just so that you guys can see the
Presenter?
yeah. But I think there's creative ways we can get around it. It all just depends on how many people show up.
We might end up in the apparatus bay.
Are they being advertised as in person now as an option, like? 'cause
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
So that's what Chris is, so right now, we're still saying just
Correct.
video.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. I don't want to say, come in and not have a solid plan.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
we
So
gotta
that's,
be
we're
ready.
just
Yeah, I just
locking
didn't
that.
know.
Yeah. Yep. Message has been received. We just want it to be set up right before we do that.
Yeah. Okay, the next board of directors meeting will be on Monday, October 17th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Meeting will continue at that time to be a hybrid with the public advised to attend by remote video conference. So, there's cake. For those who are here,
There are cake.
there is no cake for the Zoom participants. But with that, the regular board of directors meeting is adjourned at 6:16.